Sure, us rugby fans are super spoiled this year. There's more scintillating Springbok action on the way, with Rassie picking an all-star lineup for the upcoming November tour.
So looking at Sia's performances in the green and gold this year, I think it's quite clear that he's still on the level. I think he's still got a lot to offer. He does a lot of the work in that loose trio that you don't always notice. You know, it might not be the big turnover on the ground. It might not be the huge steal or the massive hits or the run or whatever. But, you know, he does the kind of work in those dark spaces that often goes unnoticed.
News 24's intrepid sport editor Lloyd Burnard joins us in the ruck next. Later in our trending topic, DJ Black Coffee calls Clifton his new posse for the fine sum of some 157 million randelas.
It's a beautiful property. It overlooks the ocean, a lovely view of the 12 Apostles, 5 ensuite bathrooms, a cinema.
And finally, we celebrate South Africa's 90s boxing triumphs with On This Day in South African History at the end of the show.
New episodes of The Lead air Monday through Thursday at 7 p.m.
Searching for prime advertising real estate? Look no further than The Lead. Mail us, thelead@24.com. My name's Graeme Robenheimer. Let's get on with the show. This is The Lead and this is the South African story. Moving to our top story today, just when you think the international rugby season's over, the Springboks pull you back in. The boys in green and gold, they go head-to-head with their old foes, the Japanese Cherry Blossoms, in about a week and a half's time. Now, Coach Rassie Erasmus has already named his squad for the November tour, with the young Stormers' breakout star Zachary Porthen tipped to make his debut. But giving us a glimpse of the games to come and taking stock post-Rugby Championship, News 24 sport editor Lloyd Burnard joins me now in our Cape Town studios. Lloyd, how's it going, bro?
Yeah, good, Graeme. Good to be back here. Thanks for having me on again.
Have you had a come down yet post-Rugby Championship?
Yeah, I mean, it was a very good tournament for a number of reasons. Obviously, how close that log was for so long was lacquer. I mean, at one point, all 4 teams were very much in it. And then some very good Springbok performances to kind of close the tournament and get over the line and retain the championship. I think the way the Boks finished that competition kind of puts the rest of the rugby world on notice again. And there were moments there where, you know, the Australia loss at Ellis Park, where you thought, ooh, perhaps maybe, you know, the Boks are starting to slip and lose their grip on the game. But as Rassie has done so many times before, these guys kind of delivered a couple of big blows towards the back end and certainly looked like the world champions again.
Right. That was you preceding my question. Just that, you know, slump in the middle of the tournament kind of like had us all sort of like wondering. But, you know, is this all part of like the Rassie sort of grand master plan of, you know, just trying to make the championship, make this tournament a little bit more exciting, maybe holding back at certain times? I don't know if it's that intuitive. But that second last Argentina game, what a bolter.
Yeah, no, look, I think Rassie's always trying to find a balance between, for lack of a better word, experimenting in the sense of giving new players opportunities and building depth. That is very important to him and the group, but then also while winning. And that's always the balancing act. I think the more players you try, the more different attacking styles you try, the more innovative you get, the more combinations you field. Obviously, you lose a bit of the consistency along the way, and you do run the risk of a performance not going according to plan. You might sacrifice a result or two along the journey for the bigger picture of growing players. But I think this team always wants to win. I think winning test matches is still absolutely a priority for Rassie. And I think when you get to a point where they were at the end of the tournament, where they've achieved both of those things, they've now got all these new combinations. They've got guys in different positions. They've got a new fly half. They've got a new number 13 and Kane and Moody, you know, and Damian Williams is back to his best at 15. You know, they've kind of ticked a lot of boxes of growing the depth, building the new combinations and still winning. And yeah, like you say, those last couple of performances in the tournament were pretty serious.
Yes. But then again, the second half of the final game against Argentina, I was kind of like, really, is this the same sort of level of the Springboks? I mean, to come back only 29, 27, it felt like the tank was empty by that sort of point, right?
Yeah, these guys play a lot of rugby, you know, and I mean, it's the same for everyone. But I was quite surprised at how quickly they all finished that tournament, and when I heard the URC coaches going, listen, these guys are going to be back in straight away, I thought, well, you're going to have to give them a couple of weeks off because they're back for the box in November as well. But they didn't. I mean, Sasha was straight back in at the Stormers, so was Damien Willems. The Sharks this past weekend fielded a team full of Springboks, and all these guys are on a plane again now, heading off into Bok camp once more for what is a very long end of year tour. I mean, it's 5 test matches. It's the whole of November that they're away, and that's a long run. So yeah, I mean, it helps when you're South Africa and you have the kind of depth that Rassie does at the moment, because not every country in the world, top tier country in the world, has that level of depth that the Boks do. And I mean, geez, it's needed when you look at how much rugby these guys are playing at the moment. The fact that Rassie can field 2 different teams of different combinations and probably still get over the line most of the time puts South Africa in a very strong position.
Let's chat Rassie's squad now for the November tour, which you've alluded to. Siya Kolisi's continue to be in the fold. He's our captain going into it. A lot of seemingly, I've seen 1 or 2 headlines that are sort of questioning that. He's 2 international caps away from making his century. Is that right? Yeah,
so you don't know when it's going to come. If he plays against Japan at Wembley, then France could be the 100th. France or Italy is the 3rd game, maybe somewhere there. But yeah, he will almost certainly reach 100 on this tour.
And what do you think of his performance going from the Rugby Championship into this? Is there any factors that work against him, or do you back? Are you a Siya stan?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you've got to look at the performances. And Rassie's been clear on this from the start. We've spoken about it before. The age isn't really the factor at the moment. It's the performances. There's battle stats there. There's metrics. There's measurables that will be monitored throughout the season. So looking at Siya's performances in the green and gold this year, I think it's quite clear that he's still on the level. I think he's still got a lot to offer. He does a lot of the work in that loose trio that you don't always notice. It might not be the big turnover on the ground. It might not be the huge steal or the massive hits or the run or whatever. But he does the kind of work in those dark spaces that often goes unnoticed. And I think his kind of efficiency on the ground and in contact and in the tackle allows the guys around him, your Malcolm Marxes, your Peter Steph du Toits, allows them to thrive at the breakdown, because he's so often the guy making the hits and setting that thing up. So no, I've been impressed with what we've seen from him. I think he's fit, which is always the most important thing when it comes to Siya. He's looking fit and strong. He's moving around the park nicely, and I think performance-wise, he's been up there. I think as long as that's the case, he remains national captain. I mean, obviously the romance of it all is one thing. I mean, just imagining the picture of Siya going to a 3rd Rugby World Cup with Rassie and winning it is just, something you couldn't really dream of.
Yeah.
So we all want that. I think that there's that kind of romantic element to this whole thing, and we want it. But it will come down to performance. Rassie won't do any of this on sentiment. There's not going to be a sentimental backing of the national captain to go to the World Cup. He's going to have to, maintain this level of performance from now until 2027.
Right, and we can chat about rugby's greatest rivalry towards the end of today's edition. Let's go through the squad quickly. It's so great to see PSDT, Eben Etzebeth, Siya Kolisi, we just spoke about, Oxenchair, Kwagga Smith, Malcolm Marx, still in the fold, loving that. And backs, of course, Sasha Feinberg and Gorma Zulu after fantastic performances in those final games in the Rugby Championship. Mani Lebok, Kobus Reinach, Andre Pollard. Fantastic. It's his all-star squad of note.
Yeah, a lot of familiarity there, a bit of consistency now. I think 36 players in the squad in total, and most of those guys, pick themselves. So very few surprises. There's obviously, 1 or 2, and I think we're going to, talk in a bit about Zach Porthen, the young Stormers prop who's made the squad, which is the obvious surprise. But largely everywhere else, it's pretty familiar, and those players pick themselves. The exclusions are probably more interesting than the players that have been picked. You've got your Bongi and Bonambi and Lucanio Am on the standby list, Makazole Mepimpi on the standby list. Evan Roos still can't get into the squad. He's on the standby list as well. So I think those are the interesting ones. Guys like Bongi and Lucanio Am and Makazole Mepimpi are absolute Springbok stalwarts and heroes and legends of the game, given what they've achieved. over 2 World Cups. But, you start asking questions now at the end of another international season.
Yeah.
There's a 36-man squad named for 5 test matches and they're not in. So, you start wondering if it's the end of the road for some of those guys.
Yeah, Salman Murat also, I really love him. Love it when he comes onto the field. I don't know, he's just got that brevity about him. Who's injured? Who didn't make it this time round?
I think it's still the props. Frans Malherbe's a guy now you start worrying about long term because he's been out for a long time. And I see Neethling Forshire is on the standby list, but my understanding was that he was also still struggling with injury. And then you've got Trevor Nyakane, who's still out as well. So, I mean, that, when you look at the fact that all 3 of those guys are props and tight head props, then you see why a Zachary Porthen selection perhaps comes into the picture. It's a brave call from Rassie. I mean, look, the guy doesn't have to play every single game. I'm pretty sure in the massive ones against Ireland and France, he probably doesn't get into that squad. But I mean, just being around that group for the next 5 weeks, and I'm pretty sure he'll get on the field at some point in one of those other games. Yeah.
Okay, Zachary's getting his call up. A Weinberg boy. Apparently, it's a game against Bishops that still has the tongues wagging till this day, right?
Yeah, that was in 2022, his matric year, and I spoke to his first team coach for a story that's up on News 24 today. I spoke to him yesterday. And yeah, I mean, it's just one of those legendary performances where he said it was almost unfair. I think Weinberg won the game 40-22 or something like that. And the coach says at some points in that game, it just bordered on looking like unfair because Zachary was just running through, around and over kids. And that is a strength. The people who speak to him, we also spoke to Stormers coach John Dobson and assistant coach Rito Hlungwane. And the running is a strong part of his game. With ball in hand, he's big, he's 6'2". He's quick, he's mobile, he hits you hard on the tackle, he's got a lot of physicality, but with the modern kind of style of play that the Boks are implementing, you start looking at a prop like that, comparing him to a Frans Malherbe, for example, and they're 2 very different types of athletes. So interesting. The scrummaging was what they said, what Rito said that that he needed to improve on. He kind of came out of the SA Under-20 system and had made a name for himself because he captained the SA Under-20s as well, and was very clearly a talent with ball in hand and the running ability and the hits and the physicality and all of that. But the scrumming was a bit of a concern, and apparently now in the last couple of years at Western Province and the Stormers, that's been the big work on area, and he's only now starting to get a regular run of URC games, and that's been an element where he has shown market improvement. So I think you can't be a Springboks prop if you don't tick the scrummaging box. I mean, it's just one of the huge Springbok weapons.
Yeah.
So I'm glad he's got that sorted out, and certainly looking forward to seeing what he can bring.
He's the 16th Weinberg boys to make it. I thought Weinberg would have had a lot more.
Yeah, I also didn't know that. It was just doing the research yesterday. I think it's Sikambuzo Noche is the one before Porthen. A list that I saw, and Noche, I think, played about 6 test matches in 2018, I think it was, or 2016, 2018. And then before that, you have to go as far back as Rob Lowe.
Wow.
To be Robbie Fleck is in between that, but he actually matriculated at Bishops. And did attend Weinberg, but as far as I understand, matriculated at Bishop. So you only count the ones that matriculated there. So it probably goes Rob Lowe, Sikombozo, Noche, and then Zach Porthen.
Wow.
So it's quite a long time in between those 3 names.
It's almost 3 different generations.
Yeah, exactly.
My dad actually knew Rob Lowe, or he claimed to know Rob Lowe. Anyway, okay, let's go through the fixtures coming up for the rest of the year. Japan is on the 1st of November. That following Monday, the lead will return to regular programming, so that's why we're doing this edition, so that it can stand the test of time. See what I did there? Until the 1st of November. Japan's not a pushover by any stretch of the imagination.
No, I mean we'll never forget Brighton, 2015 and what happened there. One of rugby's great results, and I think because of that, they will always have South Africa's respect. That Japanese league, both divisions are thriving. It never has quite translated the success of Japanese domestic rugby with all of the international influence. It's never quite translated into a thriving national team. But they're always going to be there or thereabout. They can move you around the park quite nicely, and they've got some pretty good, ballers in that team. So, I mean, no, but you wouldn't expect, especially at a neutral venue, I think, that's in London at Wembley, and you would expect a pretty routine South African win to start the tour there. And then the big one is France the weekend after that, So, I mean, a lot of the selections you see for that Japan game will also have the France game in mind. So I think, you probably see a bit of, I don't want to say second string side, because you can't really with the Springboks, but probably a weakened team in some areas against Japan than you will against France. I think France is a big one. And then, Italy away, kind of a bit of a break there. Maybe the Japan team gets more of an outing against Italy, and then after that it's Ireland, which is
it's going to be big,
which is massive, yeah. And then they close it off against Wales. The Wales and Japan tests fall outside of the international window, which has the franchises not overly thrilled. I mean, these guys don't get their box for such large parts of the season, and now there's 2 extra weekends where they're not going to get them in terms of, think of all the Sharks guys that are not going to be available. Not that the Boks have been helping them too much so far.
Yeah, I'm going to be very interested to see the divide in the crowd in Dublin for that Ireland game after all the visa issues that have come up over the recent years, because there's a huge South African population in Ireland because of how easy it was in the past visa-wise. So I wonder if that's how the stadium's going to look on the day. I'm a nerd like that. I'm looking forward to that side of things.
I've never been to Ireland before. But it looks like one of those magical places to watch rugby.
Yes.
I would love to see it, and the crowd is. I mean, all those Northern Hemisphere crowds are special in their own way. I was lucky enough last year to be on the tour. Murrayfield to Cardiff to Twickenham all have their own little special things about them that are so unique. So I think it's one of the benefits of playing all of your rugby in one venue. We obviously have to tour the country here with the Springboks, whereas in those countries it's always at one stadium. No, that's going to be huge. I want to hopefully they play the proper zombie this time, and we don't have Loftus drowning out the Cranberries with Rassie's name.
Okay, let's end off here. Rugby's greatest rivalry next year, and I saw because I'm a very casual rugby fan, I will watch all the Springboks games, and I'll catch a Stormers game here and there. But I saw on Facebook through I think one of the rugby channels that I follow this massive run of tests against the All Blacks next year in 2026, and there's a few club fixtures in between. School us here. What's this all about?
Yeah, look, I mean, money, right? I mean, it always comes down to money. It's the most lucrative product in the game at the moment. That rivalry, Springboks All Blacks, is huge in terms of marketing the game and leveraging the product and capitalizing on its opportunities. There's nothing bigger than South Africa, New Zealand. So I think they've gone.
It's all at home in South Africa, or not?
Yeah, there's 3 tests in South Africa, and then there's a 4th test between the teams at a yet to be determined venue that we're hearing. Could be like the States, but I mean, they might take it to Twickenham. I'm not sure what that's going to be. But then, a bit of a roadshow with the franchises as well. So you will have, it essentially follows the blueprint of a British and Irish Lions tour. So you'll have, the All Blacks here with a big squad, spending a lot of time in the Republic, and, kind of playing against the Stormers at Cape Town Stadium and playing against the Sharks at Kings Park. So I mean, it's literally an All Black roadshow through South Africa for I guess 6 weeks or a couple of months.
And what's Rassie saying about the string of tests ahead of obviously the World Cup?
Rassie, it's because it's quite. The year before the World Cup, you essentially get 4 hits at the All Blacks, which you would think is good preparation for a Rugby World Cup. And he was asked that, I think, after the announcement came, and he kind of downplayed it a bit, it's not going to really have any bearing on the World Cup. But I think it must. If you think of like a shortened rugby, whenever there's a rugby championship in a World Cup year, it's a shortened rugby championship. So you only play the All Blacks once, either home or away, and then you see them at the World Cup maybe again if you're on the same side of the draw, whatever the case may be. But I think playing them 4 times in a year before the World Cup for both sides is going to be really, really good preparation. I think they'll get as much out of it as South Africa will.
And that's Lloyd Burnard. He's our News 24 sport editor. If you'd like to read some of his latest writing, you can go and check out his in-depth piece on the Stormers tight head prop, Zach Porthen, who's making his debut for the Springboks in this November tour. It's with the headline, quote-unquote, he had no idea how good he was. Rassie's latest Springbok recruit ticks all the right boxes. Both Lloyd and I are getting married. Me this weekend, and then Lloyd very soon. We were chatting off mic. All the preparations going well, Lloyd?
Yes, I think so. I think we can both be very proud of ourselves for how far we've come. It's quite a process, as you'll know. I mean, there's a lot to do, and you don't account for all of it. But we're almost at the finish line, Graeme.
Yes.
And no, looking forward to it, man. And all the best to you as well for this weekend. Have a blast. We've just had a send-off for Graeme here in the office, and given him a couple of bottles of champagne here to celebrate. But no, all the best, man. We'll be thinking of you.
Shot, Brew. Good luck for the bachelors.
Shots. Cheers.
Trending topic.
Moving to our trending topic now, and well, he's a multi-award-winning South African DJ with 8 SAMAs, 4 DJ awards, 2 Metro FM awards, and a Grammy Award for Best Dance Electronic Album. He's DJ Black Coffee, of course, and the record producer and songwriter whose real name is Nkosinati Innocent Mapumulo is now the proud resident of a Clifton seaside villa. It's even got a name. It's called the Pentagon. But now, here with us with all the details is our resident journalist, Nicole McCain, who's been stalking DJ Black Coffee to know exactly where he lives. Nicole, how's it going?
Hi, Graeme.
Thanks so much for joining us on the show today. How did you find out about the fact that he clinched this massive, beautiful house in Clifton?
So we have been aware of the sale for a few months now. It is the highest valued sale that South Africa has seen this year, 157 million for a single property on Nettleton Road, which is Cape Town's most expensive street. It's possibly the most expensive street in Africa.
But this is not him coming and opening his wallet and swiping a card, right? This was done through his company, I think?
Yes, so his company, Little Ark Holdings, he is the director of that company, has bought the property. There's not a lot of details available. All we have at the moment are deeds office records to go off, but his publicist has told us that he lives a very private life, in terms both his private life and his business life, and has declined to comment. But the deeds office does show that his company has bought the property.
Sure, 157 million, eh?
157 million, yes.
What does 157 million get you? What's the hallmark of this particular property? I saw a couple of pictures. I mean, this is top billing stuff.
Oh, and beyond. It's a beautiful property. It overlooks the ocean, lovely view of the 12 Apostles, 5 ensuite bathrooms, a cinema, your own private cinema.
Basic.
Absolutely, yes. It's got a gym, it's got a room floor pool, anything you can think of, it's there.
And I think the president's one of his nearby neighbors. I mean,
quite close by, yes. Same corner of the mountain, yes.
Why? What's with this road? Why is it so sought after? Is it just because of these really stunning views, so difficult to get? The houses are really high end.
So yes, to all of the above. They are beautiful high end homes. There's only about 40 on that street. I think a lot of it is the status of saying that you live on Nettleton Road. I mean, you don't get much higher than that in Cape Town, upper society. So yes, a lot of status symbol, but then of course beautiful homes worth millions, amazing views. It's the address you want to have in Cape Town.
Sure. What would you do with 157 million rand? Would you buy a house on Nettleton Road?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe a few houses on a different road.
Well, it just shows you DJ Black Coffee's most definitely made it. Thanks so much for joining us on the lead today, Nicole. That's it.
Pleasure.
Looking for a smarter weekend scroll? The Weekender is your ultimate guide to bold stories, sharp opinion, and a fresh lens on life in Mzansi. From exclusive interviews and powerful essays to wine picks, playlists, and pop culture gems, it's your perfect weekend read all in one place, landing every Saturday on News 24. And finally,
ending off now with On This Day in South African History, the 22nd of October 1999. Well, it was a knockout day for South African boxing when Zolile Mbiti and Peter Malinga both claimed world titles. Mbiti took the IBO flyweight crown whilst Malinga secured the IBO welterweight title. The late 1990s, in fact, marked a golden era for South African boxing, with as many as 8 world champions in 1998 alone. But by the turn of the century, some argued that the term world champion had lost its old prestige as multiple boxing bodies started awarding their very own belts. Well, it's an absolute pleasure to have this platform and bring you such important stories from rugby all the way through to deep state corruption in South Africa. News 24 covers all bases. It really is a mirror reflection of South African society today, and the lead tries to replicate that. Sadly, the show will be out of action until Monday, 3rd of November. I'm getting hitched with a wedding and honeymoon soon on the way. In the meantime, we're still monitoring our mailbox. If you'd like to give your business, big or small, the edge and advertise on this very podcast once I return, please get in touch with us at thelead@24.com. Hit like, follow, subscribe, drop a comment, get in touch. We want to hear from you. Until then, au revoir, danko, kosekakulu, ngiyabonga, kelaboa, iba imnini amnandi. My name's Graeme Robenheimer, and so long as there's trusted news first, we'll always have the lead.